What is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm here to give you guys my review on Monday Night Raw, March 25th, 2013. We got off an amazing ending from Raw last night between John Cena and The Rock. They had an amazing promo, and what a way to end Monday Night Raw last night. You had the Q&A session. Jerry Lawler hosted it. You had a bunch of legends in the ring asking John Cena and The Rock both questions. You had Booker T, Bret Hart, Dusty Rhodes, and I believe the other man was Mick Foley. This segment was amazing. John Cena showed signs of possibly a heel turn. Maybe he was teasing it. But one thing's for sure, that promo from last night has everybody talking about this match now. And prior to that promo, nobody was talking about John Cena versus The Rock. Everybody was talking about Brock Lesnar against Triple H, or CM Punk versus The Undertaker. But now, John Cena and The Rock have me invested into their match for WrestleMania 29. They have convinced me that their match is actually going to be worth something at WrestleMania. So I have to admit, they sold me last night on wanting to watch their match. They have everybody talking, and they needed to create that buzz. So job well done, WWE. Job well done by The Rock and John Cena, as they both cut amazing promos last night. And now everybody is talking about it. What's going to happen at the main event of WrestleMania. Whether John Cena is going to turn heel. Is he going to lose? Is he going to win? This has created a lot of buzz now in the world of professional wrestling, and we just have to wait and stay tuned for 12 more days to see what's going to happen that night. And that night is going to be pretty historic. Maybe they're teasing John Cena turning heel, but he's not. Maybe they did this to get everybody to buy the event and want to see for themselves what's going to happen. But maybe he's not actually turning heel. A lot of people have doubts about it because they still know that John Cena is a top merchandise seller in WWE. All the kids buy his shit, and there's no way he's ever going to turn heel since the kids continue to buy his stuff, and that's the only way WWE makes money these days. But anything is possible in the WWE. We've seen it in the past with Austin, Hogan. And although Hogan's heel turn didn't happen in WWE, it happened in WCW, which ultimately changed the landscape of not just WCW, but professional wrestling in general, because they were kicking WWE's ass when Hogan turned heel and they formed the NWO. And that led to WWE having to change their whole product around just to beat WCW. And John Cena in his promo last night, he even said it, that at WrestleMania, their match, that match is going to change the face of WWE forever, and he's right. Who knows what's going to happen? Could you imagine John Cena losing twice in a row to The Rock? Could you even picture The Rock losing to John Cena? Because of how big and larger than life The Rock is, it's almost impossible to see him losing to John Cena, but it's possible this time around. And John Cena said some pretty important things on that promo last night that not that many people paid attention to. He was talking about how he's never won the big one against The Rock. Now, the reason he says that is because The Rock is ultimately his biggest opponent ever, his biggest rival ever in the WWE. Bigger than Edge, bigger than Randy Orton, bigger than CM Punk. The Rock is the top dog that John Cena has had to deal with for all of his career. Even in his early days, John Cena was compared to The Rock. And how people always said John Cena is not better than The Rock. So ultimately, he does need this match, and it is the most important match of his career. You people don't realize how big it is because you think that just because John Cena's been in the main event countless times and he's always being Superman, that there's nothing left for him to prove. Well, he needs this victory for the reasons he said last night, to be satisfied and to prove to the world that he did belong in The Rock's era and that he does need respect and redemption. That's why he needs this match. He even said it himself. He wants this match. He needs to beat The Rock to prove to everybody that he's better than him, and he could hang with the likes of Austin and The Rock from the Attitude Era and people like that. It's tradition. It makes sense. That's what wrestling is all about, passing the torch. John Cena needs this match in order for him to be considered a legend down the road, just like Hogan did for The Rock at WrestleMania 18. So John Cena does need this match because that is his biggest roadblock in his career. The fact that he's never been able to prove his critics wrong about the fact that he's lesser than The Rock. So it was a pretty intense promo. It felt realistic. It felt legitimate. It felt from the heart. It was passionate. I love both men's deliveries. Even The Rock was amazing. He was game on, point on with this promo last night. Just fucking an amazing job by The Rock as well. He brung it. He was amazing, you know. He delivered a home run on his promo last night. So did John Cena. They both stepped it up. They both killed it on the microphone. So that was a great job by both men. And I'm actually even starting to feel that their match at WrestleMania 29 may even be better than last year's, and it'll surpass last year's by far. Because last year's was an okay match, but this year, it's for the championship. The feud is more intense. It's more personal. So they almost have to do more in this match. Like, they really got to go balls out to the wall and just fucking fight. You know, just kick each other's asses. This time around, it seems like they hate each other more. So that's why I feel this match is going to be a lot more epic than last year's match. And who knows, we're in for a treat. It could possibly be match of the night, even though a lot of people are saying Taker and Punk is going to be match of the night, which I don't disagree with you on. But Cena and The Rock has potential now to be just as good as a match of Punk and Taker now. So, yeah, that's it for that. But, guys, what do you think? Will John Cena turn heel on April 7th in MetLife Stadium at WrestleMania 29? Or could that be the unofficial heel turn, and then the next night, that's when he officially turns heel? We'll have to wait and see. But I'm liking this new side of John Cena. And I mentioned this last week. That's what WWE had to do in order to make me invest into this match. They needed to have John Cena show a more evil, dark, different side of him, a more desperate side of him, a more ruthless side of him to really convince us that he really wants this match, that he's serious about this match, to make it feel legitimate. And now they did just that, so I'm proud of them. We're moving on now to the Undertaker and CM Punk segment, which opened the show. You had CM Punk come out with Paul Heyman as Paul Heyman was carrying the torch, he was carrying the urn, Paul Bear's urn, and he was just standing at ringside watching CM Punk cut an amazing promo about how he's not disrespecting Paul Bear by carrying the urn. He carries the urn to antagonize The Undertaker because The Undertaker believes that urn means everything to him. So the reason why Punk carries that around is to annoy The Undertaker, to piss him off, to make him angry, and basically to get Undertaker so pissed to the point where he might even get disqualified at WrestleMania 29. And remember, Punk said this himself. The streak doesn't have to end with just a pinfall or submission. It could end in DQ. So that's the whole point of this feud and why Punk has the urn. It's to antagonize The Undertaker. And we just have to wait and see what's going to happen at Mania between Punk and Taker. It's tradition, guys. I'm not pissed off that they've involved Paul Bear in this storyline. And if anything, it pays tribute to Paul Bear. It's a way to honor him by using his urn, by using his creation, and making it relevant again, even if he's not in the ring, even if he's not in this earth with us anymore. It's a way to show respect to him by using this urn. And Punk is going to get his at Mania. It's a traditional, old-school fashion wrestling storyline where the bad guy, you build him up, you build him up, you build him up, make him antagonize everybody, piss everybody off, and then at the pay-per-view, you have to pay your money to see the bad guy get his ass kicked. That's what this storyline is all about. Undertaker's going to kick Punk's ass, he's going to get the urn back, he's going to teach Punk a lesson. And that's the whole point of this storyline. That's the message they're trying to get across with this feud. So I love it. You had Undertaker come out, the lights went off, and I'm actually surprised he got his hands on Punk last night because I didn't think that they would even show any signs of Taker and Punk brawling it out on Raw just to save it for WrestleMania to make us want to see the match itself at Mania. And yeah, but if anything, it makes the feud better, the fact that Taker was able to get his hands on Punk. So, I mean, I was a little bit surprised to see Taker get physical with Punk. But again, I have no problem with it either because we didn't really see Taker actually kick Punk's ass. He just got 3 or 4 punches in and then Punk was able to escape. So we still have to see Taker kick Punk's ass at WrestleMania, guys. And yeah, let's see. What else is there to talk about? Oh, Chris Jericho versus Fandango was confirmed to happen at WrestleMania 29 last night. Fandango will make his debut, his premiere debut at WrestleMania 29 against Chris Jericho. Now, Fandango, don't get me wrong, he's great. He's an amazing competitor, and he showed a different side of him last night as opposed to just doing the dancing shit. He actually was mean. He was aggressive. He showed a more dark side in him. So it was interesting to see that, the way he attacked Chris Jericho after Jericho had his match against Dolph Ziggler and he beat him. But it just feels randomly thrown in there. Like, it was a match WWE threw in there at the last minute. Like, is this really a match you want to see at Mania? I mean, don't get me wrong, the build-up has been pretty decent. But again, for Chris Jericho, like, you're putting him in such a low-profile match. And we're used to seeing Chris Jericho in 5-star classics at WrestleMania. We're used to seeing this guy compete at a high level in the grandest stage of them all. And this year, I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing that he's facing someone like Fandango, but really, like, that's a huge degradation for Chris Jericho. But who knows? Maybe he can make Fandango a star at Mania. I even have this theory that Fandango might even get squashed, and they might do another Daniel Bryan from last year and have Jericho squash him in 18 seconds, because it's typical of WWE to do something like that with these joke of characters, and Fandango's character is a joke. His gimmick is a joke. So I wouldn't be surprised if they actually did something like that at WrestleMania and just killed Fandango right then and there by having Jericho squash him. But it's not of Chris Jericho to do something like that, because Chris Jericho has respect for the business. He knows that he has to put over the future. Chris Jericho is just not that type of guy who's going to bury someone, especially when he knows what it's like to get buried when he was in WCW and earlier in his career. So I don't think he's going to do that to Fandango. They might have a decent match at WrestleMania that lasts probably 5 minutes. And I know a lot of people had a problem with the fact that the fans in Philadelphia last night were chanting, "You can't wrestle," to Fandango when he actually can wrestle. But do you know why they're chanting it? It makes sense. He's not getting in the ring to fight. So logically, what would you do if you were in attendance? You pay your money to see matches. You want to see wrestlers get in the ring and get their asses kicked, especially a heel. That's Fandango's job, is to get on the fans' nerves, piss them off. That's why they chanted, "You can't wrestle." Even though he can wrestle, it's Fandango's job to do just that, to make fans want to boo him, because he's a heel. So, of course, they're supposed to hate him. Of course, they're supposed to chant shit like that to him. I have no problem with the fans chanting, "You can't wrestle," to Fandango, because technically he's not wrestling. He's not getting in the ring. So, it makes sense. I have no problem with it. And then you have AJ Lee versus Caitlyn, which was teased last night. They had a Raw match, but it was an actual match, as Caitlyn got counted out. So it makes me wonder if they're going to save this match for WrestleMania, a Divas match, where Caitlyn puts her title on the line against AJ Lee. I personally would love to see this match, and I think I even suggested it to you guys a couple of videos ago, a couple of weeks ago, saying we should see AJ Lee versus Caitlyn, because it would feel like a Trish Stratus versus Lita type of match, except now they can't build it up in time because there's only less than a week until, well, there's less than 2 weeks until WrestleMania now, so they don't have much time to build it anymore. But if they had build it from the beginning, it would have felt like an AJ Lee and Trish Stratus type feud. They could, or a Trish Stratus and Lita type feud, excuse me, but they could have really done something special with those two for the last few weeks if they built it up. Still, though, I would like to see this match. It just depends on if they're gonna actually do it, or if they're gonna add them in the Team Hell No against Ziggler and Big E Langston match, and have AJ Lee be in Dolph and Big E's corner, and have Caitlyn be in Team Hell No's corner. That's another possibility that they might do. And the last thing I'm going to talk to you guys about for Monday Night Raw last night, the mid-carders. WWE buried way too many mid-carders last night, especially their champions, the U.S. champion Antonio Cesaro and the Intercontinental champion Wade Barrett. What the fuck are you doing, WWE? Why do you have the titles on these guys if they're going to be completely irrelevant and they're just going to be buried? You had Triple H kick Wade Barrett in the nuts last night, making him seem completely worthless, completely irrelevant, as if he's worth nothing. He is worth something. He's your Intercontinental Champion. He's the former Nexus leader. How are you going to do this to a man with that size? Because Wade Barrett is pretty big, so he looks like a guy that you would actually want to pay your money to see in a main event. But instead you're burying him, and on top of that you have him lose a non-title match to Miz. What is your mindset, WWE? And yet, even though we had Cesaro beat Del Rio, Cesaro won because of Jack Swagger and getting Del Rio counted out. Because Swagger was going after Ricardo, so Del Rio got distracted. He left the ring and he wanted to save Ricardo, and he got counted out, which means Cesaro was still irrelevant. And even after that victory, Del Rio went inside the ring and kicked Cesaro's ass. Again, they're burying their mid-carders. Too many mid-carders were buried last night. 3MB, Zack Ryder, Great Khali, and Justin Gabriel, even though I don't give a shit about those three, so I have no problem with that. But still. And then you had the Usos buried as well. You know, I don't know what WWE's mindset is at this point. At least give something good to Cesaro. Give something good to Barrett heading into WrestleMania. They need to have their matches just like everyone else is having their big matches. I don't even know if The Miz is going to have at Mania. Is going to have a match at Mania. What about Rhodes Scholars? Cody Rhodes and Damian Sandow. What are they going to do? Because they're also mid-carders. They're pretty good mid-carders as well. And they're involved in the tag team division. So what are they going to do for Mania? You know, there's too many mid-carders still missing, and they're being left off the card. And I guess we're just going to have to see what happens in the final week before Mania, if they're going to have matches or not. So, yeah, guys. I mean, too many guys are being buried still from WWE, especially the mid-card champions. Like, take the titles off of Cesaro and Wade Barrett if they're not going to be doing anything. But, yeah, guys, I think that's going to do it. And I'll see you next week. Peace out.